There is a specific kind of fear that belongs only to driving alone at night. Not the fear of crashing. Not the fear of getting lost. Those are rational fears with rational shapes. You can hold them, name them, make a plan around them. I am talking about a different kind. The kind that lives in the rearview mirror. The kind that makes you check it more than you need to. The kind where your eyes drift up to that small rectangle of reflected darkness behind you and some part of your brain, some ancient, pre-language part that has been running quietly in the background since before you had words for anything, registers something and sends a signal, and the signal says, "Do not stop. Do not stop for anything. Just drive." Most of the time, that signal is nothing. Most of the time it is your own nervous system running a threat assessment on an empty road and filing an inconclusive report. Most of the time you check the mirror, and there is nothing there, and you feel slightly foolish, and you turn up the radio and keep going. Most of the time. Her name, for this story, is Claire. She was 31 years old when this happened. A logistics coordinator for a regional distribution company, which means she spent a lot of time on the road, a lot of time alone in a car at odd hours, a lot of time on routes that other people do not drive because other people are home and asleep. She was experienced, is what I mean. She was not someone who spooked easily on a dark road. She was not someone who had never driven alone at 2 a.m. on a stretch of highway with no other cars and no cell signal and nothing in any direction but flat dark land and the twin beams of her own headlights cutting forward into nothing. She had done all of that. Many times. It was, for her, simply the texture of a Tuesday. Until November 14th. The route was one she had driven at least 100 times. State Route 9, eastbound, beginning just outside the city limits and running for 62 miles through agricultural land and 2 small towns before connecting to the interstate. It is not a scenic road. It is not a road anyone would choose for pleasure. It is a straight, flat, slightly depressing strip of asphalt that runs between fields that grow soybeans in summer and become wide black nothing in late autumn, and the only landmarks are the occasional grain elevator visible against the sky, the mile markers every tenth of a mile, and 3 gas stations spread across the entire 62 miles, 2 of which close at 10 p.m. Claire had driven it so many times that she had stopped seeing it. That was the phrase she used in what she wrote for me. She said, I had stopped seeing it. It had become invisible the way familiar things become invisible. I could drive it in a condition of almost complete mental absence, my hands making the micro-adjustments, my foot maintaining the speed, my eyes moving but not really registering. I was present in the car and not present on the road. She said, I think that is why I almost missed it. She left the distribution center at 11:40 p.m. Standard run. She was delivering manifests and picking up returns, the kind of transaction that cannot be done digitally and so requires a human body driving a car in the dark. She had done it the previous Tuesday, and the Tuesday before that, and every Tuesday before that for the better part of a year. The first 20 miles were exactly like every other time. She had a podcast playing, she remembers this specifically, a podcast about architecture she had been working through for weeks. Something calm and detailed and completely inappropriate for what was about to happen. She had a travel mug of coffee in the cup holder. The heat was on. Her dashcam, a dual-channel unit that recorded both the road ahead and, crucially, the road behind, was running as always, recording to a loop of SD cards that overwrote themselves every 72 hours. Mile 23. She noticed the headlights. Not immediately as something wrong, just as headlights. A vehicle behind her, some distance back, appearing in the rearview mirror the way vehicles appear on a straight road, gradually materializing out of the darkness as it crested a slight rise. She registered it the way you register any other car on a road, peripherally, without focus, filed away as not a threat, and immediately deprioritized. She kept driving. At mile 27, she noticed the headlights again. Still there. Same distance back. Which meant, and her brain performed this calculation automatically, the way drivers' brains do, that the vehicle had maintained exactly her speed for approximately 4 miles without closing the gap or falling further back. She noted it. She didn't escalate it. Lots of people drive the same speed on a straight road. That is not remarkable. That is what cruise control is for. She turned up the podcast. Mile 31. She checked the mirror. Same headlights. Same distance. Exact same distance, which was, she estimated later, trying to reconstruct it, somewhere between a quarter mile and a third of a mile back. Far enough that she could not make out anything about the vehicle itself. Just the lights. 2 points of white light sitting in the darkness behind her at a fixed and unchanging remove. She felt the first edge of something then. Not fear exactly. More like the specific alertness that arrives before fear does, the body's early warning system coming online before the conscious mind has caught up. She did something she had never done before on that route. She slowed down. Not dramatically, she dropped from 67 to 55, a change significant enough that it would take the vehicle behind her approximately 30 seconds to catch up if it maintained its previous speed, or reveal itself to be slowing too if it didn't want to close the gap. She watched the mirror. The headlights neither closed the gap nor fell back. They slowed with her. Precisely. Immediately. As if the vehicle behind her had not matched her new speed but had known her new speed the moment she chose it. She turned off the podcast. She drove for the next 6 miles in silence. She tried several things. She slowed to 45. The headlights slowed. She accelerated back to 70. The headlights accelerated. She maintained 70 for 2 miles and then braked suddenly to 50. Not a dangerous brake, just a quick, deliberate deceleration, and the headlights responded in what she could only describe as real time. No delay. No adjustment period. As if whatever was behind her was not reacting to her speed but anticipating it. At mile 37, she passed the second gas station on the route. It was closed, lights off, pumps dark, the parking lot empty. She almost pulled in anyway. She wanted to. She told me later that she came within about 3 seconds of pulling the wheel. She didn't. She said, "I don't know why. I had a feeling, not a thought, not a decision, just a feeling, that stopping was wrong. That stopping was exactly what I was not supposed to do. I cannot explain where that feeling came from. I cannot tell you it was rational. But it was the clearest and most certain thing I felt that entire night." She kept driving. Mile 38. Mile 39. At mile 40, something changed. The headlights, which had maintained their fixed distance for the better part of 17 miles, began to move. They began, slowly and without any apparent trigger, to close the gap. Not quickly. Not the acceleration of a vehicle that has decided to pass. Something more deliberate than that, more patient, more considered, the slow, measured reduction of distance that implies intent rather than impatience. The headlights grew in her mirror the way things grow when they are approaching, and the approaching is unhurried because whatever is approaching knows that you have nowhere to go. She called her husband. No signal. She checked her phone, 1 bar, then none, then 1 bar again, the specific maddening instability of rural signal on a flat road with the towers too far apart. She tried 3 times. Each call dropped before it connected. She started driving faster. The headlights kept pace without effort. They were closer now, she could see, in the slight glow of their leading edges, the vague shape of a vehicle. Large. Dark. She could not make out a make, or model, or plates, only the impression of size and the certainty of presence. Mile 43. The vehicle behind her turned off its headlights. She was alone on a pitch-black road with a vehicle she could no longer see. She knew it was still there. She knew this not because she could see it but because she could feel it, a proximity registered somewhere below the threshold of the conscious senses, the same system that tells you there is someone in a room before you see them, the same system that woke up every human ancestor who survived long enough to pass on their genes by sensing in the dark what they could not see in the dark. She drove at 80 miles an hour with no headlights in her mirror, and she knew, with a certainty that did not require evidence, that the vehicle was approximately 100 feet behind her, and closing. She tried her phone again. 1 bar. She forced the call through and it connected for 11 seconds. She got out 7 words before the signal died. She told me she doesn't know if her husband heard any of them. Mile 45. The gas station. The third one, the last one on the route, still open. She could see the lights from half a mile away, the lit canopy over the pumps, the glow of the interior through the plate glass windows, a single car in the lot. She aimed for it the way you aim for a lifeboat. She pulled in hard, the car rocking, tires loud on the concrete apron, and she stopped under the canopy lights with the engine still running and her hands still on the wheel, and she sat there and breathed. She looked in the mirror. On the road, at the edge of the light cast by the station canopy, a vehicle sat. Dark. Engine off, apparently, no exhaust visible in the cold air. Positioned in the right-hand lane of the road, not quite pulled over, not quite driving, just stopped. Facing her. Or facing the gas station. Or facing whatever it wanted to face. She could not see the driver. She could not see through the windshield from that distance and angle. She could not see anything except the shape of a large, dark vehicle sitting at the edge of the light. She went inside. The attendant was a teenager, 17 or 18, earbuds in, half asleep over a phone. She asked him to call 911. She told him there was a vehicle following her. He called. She gave the dispatcher what information she could. State Route 9, Mile 45, a large dark vehicle, no plates visible, no lights, stopped on the road. The dispatcher said a unit would check the area. She asked the attendant if she could wait inside. She waited 40 minutes. No unit came, or if one came it did not stop at the gas station. She watched through the plate glass windows. The vehicle on the road did not move for the first 20 minutes. Then, at some point between her checking the window at minute 20 and checking it again at minute 23, it was gone. The road was empty. She did not feel relieved. She called her husband successfully from the gas station. He wanted to come get her. She told him no. The interstate connection was only 17 miles from the gas station, and the interstate meant lights and traffic and other people, and she needed to get to those things. She drove the 17 miles at 90 miles an hour. Nothing followed her. The mirror was empty. The road was empty. She reached the interstate and merged into the sparse late-night traffic and felt something she described as the specific physical relief of a body standing down from a state of readiness it had not known it was in, a whole-body exhale, hands loosening on the wheel, the architecture of tension in her shoulders and jaw and chest dismantling itself all at once. She got home at 2:17 a.m. She did not sleep. She sat at the kitchen table with her husband and tried to explain what had happened and found, for the first time, that she could not quite make it land the way it needed to land. It sounded, when she said it out loud, like a story about a car that drove behind her on a road. It sounded manageable. It sounded like something you shake off. He was kind and calm and told her it sounded frightening and made her tea. She did not tell him, that night, about the feeling she'd had at mile 40. The feeling she still had, sitting in her own kitchen under the lights with her husband across the table. The feeling that had not gone away when the vehicle disappeared from the road. The feeling that had ridden home with her in the passenger seat, quiet and certain, like someone who knows they don't need to hurry. The feeling that it was not finished. 4 days later, she pulled the dashcam footage. She had not done it immediately. She had considered it, and then not done it, and not quite examined why she was not doing it, the way you do not examine certain reasons because examining them would require acknowledging them. On the 4th day she sat down with her laptop and the SD card and she watched. The footage from the forward-facing camera was ordinary. Road. Darkness. Mile markers. The gas station, her turn in, the lit canopy. 17 miles of interstate. Home. Then she switched to the rear-facing channel. She watched from mile 23, where she had first noticed the headlights. The footage confirmed everything she remembered, the lights appearing, maintaining distance, matching her speed changes, the slow close at mile 40, the lights going off at 43. And then, between mile 43 and mile 45, the 2 miles she drove in the dark, and the 80-mile-an-hour blind sprint toward the gas station lights, the rear camera recorded something that was not in her mirror. The rear camera is positioned lower than the mirror. It has a wider field of view. It captures the road behind the car at an angle that the mirror does not. And in that footage, in the 2 miles of dark road that she drove believing she could not see what was behind her, she could see it. Not the vehicle. The vehicle was there, yes, a large, dark shape, no lights, following at approximately 100 feet, exactly as she had sensed. The vehicle is visible in the footage. But the vehicle is not what stopped her breath when she watched it. What stopped her breath was what was visible between the vehicle and her car. Running. In the gap between the following vehicle and her rear bumper, in the narrow channel of road that existed between them, something was running. On 2 legs. Upright. Moving at the speed of a car traveling at 80 miles an hour, which is not a speed at which human legs can move, which is not a speed at which any biological system currently recognized by science can sustain upright bipedal locomotion on a flat road surface. It was running. It was keeping pace. Its arms were not pumping the way runners' arms pump. They were held slightly out and slightly back, and they were too long, and the way it moved was not the way that running looks when you see it from behind. It was something else wearing the shape of running. Something that had observed running and was replicating it imperfectly, with the slight wrongness of a copy that understands the surface and not the interior. She watched this for a long time. She watched it for, she told me, probably 40 minutes on that first viewing. She paused it. She went frame by frame. She adjusted the brightness and contrast until the dark road resolved into something she could see more clearly, and then she wished she hadn't, because more clearly was not better. More clearly showed her the face. Turned toward the camera. Not toward the road. Not forward, in the direction of travel. The face, or the space where the face should be, the smooth, featureless, wrong geography of it, was directed backward, toward the camera mounted in her rear window, as if it knew the camera was there. As if it had always known. As if that was the whole point. She did not go back to work the following Tuesday. She called in, which she had never done before in 3 years, and she sat at home and she tried to make a decision about the footage. Whether to delete it. Whether to send it somewhere. Whether to show her husband. She showed her husband on Thursday. She said, he watched it twice, and then he closed the laptop and he sat there for a while, and then he said we need to talk about whether you should take a different route. He did not say, that isn't real. He did not say, it's a trick of the camera. He did not say any of the things she had half expected, half hoped for. He said, take a different route? She took a different route. A longer one, through the city, adding 40 minutes each way. She took it every Tuesday for 6 weeks. On the 7th Tuesday, her manager asked her to cover a late run on State Route 9. She almost said no. She said yes. She drove the route. She was fine. Nothing appeared in her mirror. Nothing ran in the footage when she checked it afterward. She drove it again the following week. Fine again. And the week after. She began carefully to rebuild the architecture of normalcy over what had happened. The way you do. The way you have to, because you cannot live in the state of November 14th indefinitely, cannot sustain that level of readiness and dread and make dinner and answer emails and sleep and wake up and do it again. The mind insists on normalizing. It has to. She was careful not to trust the normalizing completely. She checked the rear dashcam footage every time. Without fail. Every drive, every route, she pulled the footage when she got home and she watched it on fast forward and she looked at the road behind her car and she confirmed, nothing. For 4 months, nothing. And then, on a Thursday in March, on a completely different route, in daylight, at 3 p.m., with 4 other vehicles visible in the footage. She saw it again. Not running this time. Standing. At the side of the road. At the edge of a turn. Where the road curved and the camera had a clean line of sight back down the straight section she had just driven. Standing at the roadside exactly as she passed. Facing the car. She had not seen it when she drove past. She had no memory of anything at the roadside at that point on the route. No person, no structure, nothing that registered. The camera saw it. one frame, sustained across approximately 2 seconds of footage, standing completely still at the roadside as her car passed and then gone. Not walked away, not moved, gone, present in one frame and absent in the next, the way things disappear in footage when they are not actually there. But they were there. She sent me the footage. All of it. November 14th and the March recording and 2 others she had found going back through older footage, 2 times, on different routes, in different months, that she had not noticed at the time and found only because she started going back and looking carefully, frame by frame, through everything the camera had recorded. The same shape. The same wrong proportions. The same absence where a face should be. Always at the roadside. Always as she passed. Always facing the car. I watched all of it. I watched it more times than I am comfortable admitting. And I can tell you that I have no explanation for what is in that footage. I can tell you that the running figure on November 14th, keeping pace with an 80-mile-an-hour car, is not something I can classify or account for or fit into any framework I have available to me. I can tell you that after I watched it, I drove home on a route I have taken 1,000 times, and for the first time I understood what it means to be afraid of the rearview mirror. Not what is in it. What might be running just outside the edge of what it can show you. Because the mirror shows you a rectangle. A limited, specific rectangle of the world behind you. And what the footage showed me, what the camera caught that the mirror cannot, is that the rectangle is not the whole story. The rectangle is what they allow you to see. What runs in the dark outside its edges is something else. Something that has been there for a long time. Something that knows your route. Something that knows your camera is there. And is not afraid of it. Claire still drives for work. She did not stop. She said stopping felt like the wrong kind of surrender, not a surrender to fear, which she could have made peace with, but a surrender to the acknowledgement that the road is not safe, that the dark outside the car is not simply dark, and she is not ready to live in a world where that acknowledgement is the foundation. She checks the footage every time. She has not found anything again since the 2nd March recording. She does not believe it is gone. She believes it is patient. She told me, at the end of the last time we spoke, it knows I check the footage. It knows I look. And I think whatever it is, whatever the looking is to it, whatever it gets from being seen on camera, I think it got what it wanted from me a long time ago. I asked her what she thought it wanted. She was quiet for a while. Then she said, I think it wanted someone to talk about it. I think it wanted someone to tell people. I think it knew I would pull the footage. I think it knew I would find someone like you, and that you would put it somewhere that a lot of people could hear it. She said, I think that's the whole point. I think she's right. I think that's exactly the whole point. And so I have to ask you, now, at the end of this, sitting in your car or your room or wherever you are, listening, I have to ask you something. When you drive tonight, or tomorrow night, or any night after this, and you check the rearview mirror, and you see the road behind you, dark and empty, nothing there, I want you to remember something. The mirror shows you a rectangle. And rectangles have edges. And just outside the edge, just outside what the mirror can show you, something has known about you since the moment you pressed play. Drive safe. Don't stop for anything. And whatever you do, do not check the footage.